I broke up with my boyfriend after my coworkers said he wasn't in my league, but just 4 hours later, I regretted it all and went back begging for another chance. 2 years ago, I was living my dream life in Miami. I was 25, working as a luxury yacht interior designer, making around $95,000 a year. Not a few money, but enough to live well. My job was basically making floating palaces even more palatial for people with more money than small countries. Custom Italian marble? Sure. Rare wood from trees that probably shouldn't be cut down? Why not? Gold-plated everything? Obviously. That's where I met him. Gallery opening in Wynwood. I was there with clients who were considering buying several pieces for their new 200-footer. He was there for work. He's a forensic accountant who specializes in art fraud. Makes about $140,000 investigating whether that Basquiat you bought is real or if you just paid $8 million for something a college kid painted last week. I noticed him because he wasn't trying to be noticed. Everyone else was peacocking around, champagne flutes in hand, talking loudly about their Lambos or their latest flip and brickle. He was actually looking at the art, taking notes in this leather notebook. Real effing notes, with a pen. I made some joke about him actually caring about the paint on the walls instead of the paint jobs in the valet lot. He laughed, not that forced networking laugh, but genuine. We talked for 3 hours. He knew things, not just about art, but about everything. History, architecture, even boats. Turned out his dad restored vintage sailboats as a hobby. When he asked for my number, he put it directly in his phone. No assistant, no have your people call my people BS. Just punched it in himself and called me right there so I'd have his. Our first date, he took me to this hole-in-the-wall Haitian place in Little Haiti. I wore a $400 dress. He wore jeans and a button-down. I felt overdressed for about 5 minutes until I tasted the food and realized he just introduced me to something real in a city full of fake. For 2 years, this man treated me like I was priceless. Not with designer bags or jewelry, he wasn't that guy. But with consistency that I didn't even know I needed. Every Sunday morning, he'd make me breakfast. Not brunch at some trendy spot where you pay $30 for eggs, actual breakfast in his kitchen. He'd learned how I liked my coffee, oat milk, half-pump vanilla, more ice than liquid. He fixed the door handle in my apartment that had been loose since I moved in. When my mom had surgery, he flew with me to Kansas City, sat in that hospital waiting room for 6 hours, held my hand when the doctor came out. He lived in a 2-bedroom condo in Coral Gables. Nice, but not luxury. Drove a Toyota Camry, the reliable kind that never breaks down but doesn't turn heads. His biggest splurge was probably his watch collection, but even those were more about craftsmanship than flash. Vintage Omegas and Seikos, not Richard Milles. Here's where I effed up. Here's where I became the worst version of myself. My job meant spending 60 hours a week surrounded by obscene wealth. The kind where someone complains their yacht only has one helipad. Where wives younger than me wore jewelry worth more than houses. Where everyone was always trading up, boats, houses, partners. My coworkers were all women, all beautiful, all hunting. They'd married rich or were trying to. Brianna had just gotten engaged to a guy who owned half of Aventura. Kendra was dating some crypto mogul who'd bought her a Bentley after 3 months. They'd sit in our design studio, surrounded by fabric samples that cost more per yard than most people make in a day, and dissect my relationship. He doesn't even have a boat. Girl, you could date any of these owners. You're wasting your pretty years on someone who drives a Toyota. Christina's boyfriend just bought her a place in Fisher Island. What has yours done lately? At first, I defended him. Told them about the Sunday breakfasts, the hospital waiting room, how he'd spent a whole weekend helping me prepare for a major presentation. They'd look at me with pity. That's sweet, they'd say, in that tone that means the opposite. The poison was slow. I started noticing things I'd never cared about before. How his condo was nice but not luxurious. How we'd go to normal restaurants instead of the places with month-long wait lists. How when we went to work events, he didn't have the swagger of the yacht owners who effed everything that moved. I started making comments. Small ones at first. Maybe we should try that new place in the design district. The one where dinner for 2 runs $800, have you thought about upgrading your car? The Toyota ran perfectly, my friend's boyfriend got them a table at Carbone. Your friend's boyfriend also does cocaine off strippers' asses, but I didn't mention that part. He'd look at me, confused. Since when do you care about that stuff? Since I let bitter women who hated their own choices convince me I was settling. The breaking point came after a particularly brutal week. I'd spent it designing the interior of a yacht owned by some pharmaceutical executive, 35 years old, net worth in the 9 figures. His wife was 23, Brazilian, looked like an Instagram filter come to life. She showed me her jewelry collection while I was measuring their master suite. Each piece had a story. He bought me this in Monaco. This was my push present. This was just because he missed me during a business trip. That night, I went home to my boyfriend's condo. He was cooking dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta and salad. He'd bought my favorite wine. Set the table properly like he always did because he knew I appreciated small gestures. Told me about his day, a fascinating case involving forged Pollocks that were almost perfect copies. I looked at him across that normal table, in that normal condo, and felt resentful. That weekend, my coworkers invited me to a party on Star Island. Bring your accountant, Brianna said, making his job sound like a disease. I told him about it. He said he'd rather stick needles in his eyes than spend an evening with those people. We fought. I accused him of not supporting my career, of being antisocial, of holding me back. Holding you back from what? He asked. From becoming one of those dead-eyed trophy wives you design panic rooms for? I should have listened. Instead, I went alone. The party was everything Miami Instagram dreams are made of. Models, athletes, trust fund babies, sugar daddies hunting for their next ex-wife. Men approached me all night. A real estate developer who owned half of Doral. A pilot for a billionaire's private fleet. A guy who claimed he invented some app I'd never heard of but swore was huge in Japan. They all said the same things: "You're too beautiful to be here alone. Let me buy you a real drink. I have a table at Live Later." They looked at me like I was a transaction. But God help me, I felt wanted. Desired. Like I was finally operating in the league I deserved. I went home that night and looked at my sleeping boyfriend. This good man who loved me, actually loved me, not my sauce or my face or what I could do for his image, and I felt nothing but contempt. He didn't have a yacht. He didn't have a driver. He didn't have the ability to get us into exclusive clubs or fly us to Art Basel on a whim. He just had integrity, intelligence, humor, loyalty, and the kind of steady love that doesn't need Instagram documentation. And I decided that wasn't enough. Update 1, she wants me back after 4 hours. I broke up with him the next Friday. Did it at his place because I'm also a coward who wanted to be able to leave when it got uncomfortable. Showed up at 7 p.m., dressed like I was going somewhere better afterward. I was, Brianna's birthday at Komodo. He knew something was wrong immediately. Asked if I wanted wine. I said no. Asked if I wanted to sit. I stayed standing. I think we want different things, I started. He just watched me, those brown eyes steady. I'm in a different place in my life now. My career is taking off, and I need someone who matches that energy. Matches that energy, he repeated, slowly. What does that mean, exactly? I unleashed every poisonous thought my coworkers had planted. How I needed someone more ambitious. He made $140,000 investigating fraud for museums and insurance companies. How our lifestyles didn't align. We lived comfortably but not extravagantly. How I'd grown past where we were. I'd been poisoned by proximity to wealth. You're embarrassed of me, he said. Not a question. No, I just. When clients ask what you do. You're embarrassed that I'm not a yacht owner. That I can't buy you a Birkin or fly you to Dubai on a random Tuesday. It's not about money? Then what? What's this really about? I said the words that I'll regret forever. I think I'm just in a different league now. I need to explore what's out there for someone at my level. The silence was long. He leaned back against his kitchen counter, the one where he'd made me hundreds of meals, and studied me like I was one of his forgeries. Looking for the tell that revealed the fake. Someone at your level, he said finally. Okay. That was it. No begging. No anger. No asking me to reconsider. Just okay. That's all you have to say? What would you like me to say? You've obviously made your decision. You think you can do better. So go do better. I grabbed my things, a few clothes, my toothbrush, the jewelry box he'd given me for my birthday, handmade by some artist in Japan, because he'd researched the traditional methods. He watched me pack, silent. At the door, I turned back. Some part of me wanted him to fight. To tell me I was making a mistake. To remind me of what we had. I hope you find what you're looking for, he said. I mean that. The door closed with a soft click. No slam. No drama. Just done. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, hands shaking with adrenaline. I'd done it. I was free. Free to level up, to explore, to find someone who fit the life I deserved. I drove to Brianna's birthday feeling like I'd just shed dead weight. Walked in with my head high. Announced I was single. The reaction wasn't what I expected. "You dumped Antonio?" Kendra asked, using his name for maybe the first time ever. "The forensic accountant?" "Yeah, I'm ready for something more." They exchanged looks. Brianna actually laughed. "Girl, do you know how many of us tried to slide into his DMs? That man is fine as HL and has an actual career. Not some trust fund or crypto BS, a real job. Plus, he's like, genuinely nice," another girl added. "Remember when he helped me with my taxes? Saved me like $8,000. "Wait," I said. "You tried to DM him?" "2 years ago, before you got together. He politely declined. Said he doesn't date his girlfriend's friends." Brianna took a shot. "Guess that's not a problem anymore." The party was supposed to be my coming out as a single woman ready to upgrade. Instead, I spent it fielding questions about why I dumped the only decent man in Miami. The yacht owners they'd promised would be all over me? They treated me like furniture. One grabbed my sauce. Another asked if I was available for private interior consultations, making air quotes so I'd know he meant SX. I left after an hour. Drove home alone. Checked my phone, nothing from him. Why would there be? I'd burned that bridge with nuclear fire. At 11:47 p.m., I cracked. Sent a text, "Hope you're having a good night." Read at 11:52 p.m. No response. 12:15 a.m., the party was boring. You would have hated it. Read at 12:16 a.m. No response. 12:45 a.m., "Can we talk?" Read at 12:46 a.m. No response. 1:30 a.m., "I think I made a mistake." That one? He left on read too. By 2 a.m., I was in full panic mode. The high of being single, of being free to upgrade, had worn off. I was sitting alone in my apartment, the one where he'd fixed everything that was broken, where he'd brought me soup when I had COVID, where we'd slow dance to Sade in the kitchen just because. I called. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. That's when I saw it. Brianna's Instagram story. A video from some art gallery opening. And in the background, laughing with a group of people, was him. He'd changed into a black button-down I'd bought him. He looked good. He looked unbothered. I drove to his building at 2:47 a.m. I know because I remember looking at the clock, thinking he had to be home by now. His car was in its spot. I buzzed his unit. Nothing. Buzzed again. His voice through the intercom. "It's 3 a.m. Please, I need to talk to you." We talked. You said what you needed to say. Go home. Antonio, please. 5 minutes. Go home. And lose my number. The intercom went dead. I sat in that lobby for an hour. The security guard eventually told me I had to leave or he'd call the police. I drove home, wrote him an email pouring my heart out. How I'd been influenced by toxic people. How I'd lost sight of what mattered. How I'd never stopped loving him. The email bounced back. He'd blocked my address. That's when I knew I'd effed up beyond repair. Update 2, I went nuclear, and he went nuclear right back. I gave him 3 days. 3 days of silence, of checking my phone every 30 seconds, of driving past his building like a stalker. I called in sick to work because I couldn't handle my coworkers' fake sympathy mixed with obvious satisfaction that I'd played myself. On day 4, Tuesday, I broke. Showed up at his office building at lunch. I knew he always ate at 12:30, usually at this Lebanese place 2 blocks away. Waited outside like a psycho ex-girlfriend, which I guess I was. He walked out with 2 colleagues, saw me, and stopped. Said something to them. They continued on while he walked over. "This is inappropriate," he said. 5 minutes. "Please. Just coffee. Or just standing here. Whatever you want." He checked his watch. 4 minutes. "Starting now." I word vomited everything. How Brianna and Kendra had gotten in my head. How the constant exposure to wealth had warped my values. How I'd mistaken his stability for inadequacy. How I'd realized within hours that I'd thrown away something real for a fantasy that didn't exist. "I know I hurt you," I said, crying now. People were staring. "But we have 2 years of history. Doesn't that count for something?" "It counted for everything," he said. Past tense. "You killed it when you told me I wasn't in your league." "I didn't mean." "You meant every word. You just didn't expect consequences." He checked his watch again. 2 minutes. I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me now that you can't have me. There's a difference. That's not fair. Fair? He actually laughed. Was it fair when you said you were embarrassed by my job? Was it fair when you compared me to your clients' sugar daddies? Was it fair when you said you needed to explore what's out there for someone at your level? I was confused. You were clear. Crystal clear. And now I'm being clear. We're done. Forever. Move on. Antonio. Time's up. He walked away. I stood there, mascara running, in my $300 shoes that I'd worn to impress him, watching him disappear into the Lebanese place without looking back. That night, I made my biggest mistake. Well, second biggest after dumping him. I got drunk. Really drunk. Tequila drunk. And I started texting. Not him, I was blocked. But our mutual friends. His cousin Maria, who I'd gotten close to. His best friend David. Even his ex-colleague who I'd met at a few work events. The messages were pathetic. Begging them to talk to him for me. Explaining how I'd been manipulated. How I needed another chance. How I'd do anything to fix this. Maria responded first. He showed me your breakup speech. You told him he wasn't enough. Respect his decision and leave him alone. David was harsher. You embarrassed him. You made him feel small. And for what? Because he doesn't have a yacht? Delete this number. But the worst response came the next morning. I woke up hungover, phone dead. Charged it to find 47 messages. My heart jumped thinking maybe he'd unblocked me. No. Every single person I'd drunk texted had screenshot my messages and posted them in a group chat. A group chat that included my coworkers. Because Miami's luxury scene is incestuous, everyone knows everyone. But that wasn't the nuclear part. He'd added a single response to the thread. Since she wanted to explore what's out there for someone at her level, I'm helping. Here's what someone at her level thinks about the man who loved her for 2 years. Attached were screenshots of my text to my coworkers from the week before the breakup. Messages I'd sent SHT talking him, calling him basic, saying I was dating down, that I could do so much better. Then he added audio. A voice memo I'd sent Brianna where I literally said, I'm only staying until after my birthday because I know he's planning something big. My birthday had been 3 weeks before the breakup. He'd surprised me with a weekend in Nashville because I'd mentioned once, that I wanted to see the Bluebird Cafe. Not Miami flashy. Just thoughtful. The group chat exploded. My coworkers were messaging separately, calling me a gold digger, a user, a BCH. Male colleagues were saying I deserved it. Female colleagues were distancing themselves like I had something contagious. But he wasn't done. An hour later, he posted on LinkedIn. Effing LinkedIn. A professional, polished post about knowing your worth in all aspects of life. It was corporate speak for calling me out. He talked about how real value isn't about flash but substance. How integrity matters more than Instagram. How the right partner multiplies your worth, not your net worth. He never named me, but he didn't have to. Everyone in Miami's luxury scene saw it. It got 3,000 likes in 2 days. The comments were brutal. People sharing their own stories of shallow exes. Thanking him for the reminder about what matters. My boss called me that afternoon. Said there'd been concerns about my professional judgment from some clients who'd seen the drama unfold online. They weren't firing me, but they were transferring me to the Jacksonville office. Effective immediately. It was a demotion disguised as a lateral move. Jacksonville? I said. There's nothing in Jacksonville. There's our secondary office that handles smaller vessels. Fishing boats, mostly. Some yachts under 60 feet. From super yachts to fishing boats. From Miami to Jacksonville. From $95,000 to $73,000 because of the cost of living adjustment. I texted him one last time from my friend's phone, you ruined my life. He responded once, no. You ruined your life. I just made sure everyone knew it. Then that number was blocked too. Update 3, 6 months later, where we all ended up. I'm writing this from my Jacksonville apartment. It's smaller than my Miami place, costs half as much, and has a view of a parking lot instead of the water. I design interiors for fishing charters and small yachts now. My biggest client owns a chain of tire shops. The first month here, I cried every day. The second month, I was angry. By month 3, the numbness set in. That's when I finally accepted what I'd done. I started therapy. Told my therapist the whole story, expecting sympathy. Instead, she asked, why did you believe you deserved more than what he was giving you? I couldn't answer. Because the truth was, he'd given me everything. Just not the Instagram-worthy everything I'd been programmed to want. You didn't fall out of love, she said. You fell in love with an image of yourself that didn't exist. She was right. I'd imagined myself as this trophy girlfriend who deserved a man with a private jet. But I was just a middle-class girl from Kansas who designed boat interiors. I wasn't special. I wasn't in a different league. I was just another woman who let social media and toxic friends convince her that real love wasn't enough. Month 4, I made the mistake of checking his Instagram. He rarely posted, but there she was. A curator at the Perez Art Museum. Beautiful in an understated way. They were at some gallery opening, him in that black shirt I'd bought him, her looking at him like he was the art. The caption was simple, found my masterpiece. The comments were full of people saying they looked perfect together. His cousin Maria wrote, she appreciates the real thing. I threw up. Actually ran to the bathroom and threw up. Month 5, I heard through the grapevine that he'd made partner at his firm. Youngest partner in the company's history. 6-figure bonus. The kind of success that would have had my old coworkers scrambling to lock him down. Brianna texted me, heard about Antonio's promotion. That curator is one lucky beach. Even she knew what I'd lost. Last week, month 6, I saw the engagement announcement. Not on social media. In the effing New York Times. Because of course a forensic accountant who specializes in art fraud and a museum curator get their engagement announced in the Times. The ring wasn't huge. Maybe 2 carats. But it was an Art Deco piece from the 1920s, probably sourced from some estate sale, probably with a story he'd researched, probably perfect for her in ways that had nothing to do with its price tag. They're getting married next spring at some historic house in Savannah. Small wedding. 75 people. The opposite of the Miami Beach Club extravaganza I'd always imagined. I sent him one last email from a new address. Just 2 words, I'm sorry. It didn't bounce back, which means he read it. But he didn't respond. Why would he? What could I possibly say that would matter now? I see my life now for what it is, a cautionary tale. I had a man who loved me, who saw me, who chose me every single day. I traded him for the possibility of something shinier. And ended up with nothing but regret and a view of a parking lot. My therapist asked me last week what I've learned. That love isn't about leagues, I said. It's about finding someone who makes you feel like you've already won. And I had that. I had someone who made me feel like I'd won the lottery. But I threw away my winning ticket because someone convinced me I deserved the whole casino. She nodded. And now? Now I design boat interiors in Jacksonville and go to bed alone, knowing I authored my own tragedy. Final update, 8 months later, the last nail in my coffin. I wasn't going to update again. What's the point? You all know how this story ends. Girl meets boy, girl gets poisoned by toxic friends, girl dumps boy, boy moves on, girl dies alone surrounded by cats and regret. But something happened last week that feels like the universe's final F you to me, and I need to write it down or I'll lose my mind. I was back in Miami for a client meeting. First time since the transfer. My boss wanted me to consult on a project that bridged our offices, some tech millionaire who kept boats in both cities. The meeting was in Coral Gables. His neighborhood. I'd managed to avoid it for 8 months, and now here I was, 15 minutes early, sitting in my rental car outside the client's house like a stalker. I decided to grab coffee. There's only one good place nearby, this Cuban spot he'd introduced me to. I just grabbed something to go. In and out. What were the odds? The odds were 100%, apparently. He was there. Corner table. But not alone. She was with him, the curator. And they weren't alone either. His parents were there. Her parents were there. Wedding planning, based on the binders on the table. I should have left. Turned around and walked out. But I stood there like an idiot, frozen. His mother saw me first. This woman who'd taught me her recipes, who'd called me mija, who'd told me she was grateful her son had found someone who appreciated him. She looked right through me. Like I was a stranger. No, worse, like I was nothing. That's when he noticed the shift in his mother's expression and turned. Our eyes met. For just a second, I saw something flicker. Not love. Not hate. Recognition, maybe? Then nothing. He turned back to his fiancée, took her hand, and continued whatever story he'd been telling. But she, the curator, she looked. Turned to see what had caught his attention for that split second. Saw me. And smiled. Not mean. Not triumphant. Worse, pitying. Like you'd smile at a homeless person you feel bad for but don't want to engage with. I left. Sat in my car for 20 minutes, unable to drive because I was shaking too hard. Later that day, after the client meeting, I did something pathetic. I went to the Perez Art Museum. I needed to see who she was. What she had that made her worthy of the life I'd thrown away. The universe wasn't done with me. She was giving a tour to a group of donors. Speaking about a new acquisition, some recovered piece that had been thought lost to forgery. She was brilliant. Articulate. Passionate. The way she talked about art was the way he talked about his cases, with genuine fascination for the truth beneath the surface. This piece was almost dismissed as fake, she was saying. But sometimes the real thing doesn't look like what we expect. Sometimes authenticity is quieter than artifice. I wanted to hate her. This woman living my life, wearing my ring, okay, a different ring, but the ring that should have been mine, planning the wedding I'd never have. But I couldn't. Because she was perfect for him. Not Instagram perfect. Not Miami perfect. Actually perfect. She saw what I'd been too poisoned to see, that real value isn't loud. As I was leaving, I passed their engagement photo in the museum's newsletter. The announcement included a quote from him. I knew she was the one when she looked at me the way she looks at art, like she could see past the surface to something worth preserving. He'd never said anything like that about me. Because I'd never looked at him that way. I'd looked at him like an accessory that wasn't designer enough. That night, in my Jacksonville apartment, I wrote him one last letter. Not an email. An actual letter. I wrote it, sealed it, addressed it. Then burned it on my balcony. Watched our entire relationship turn to ash and float away. My therapist says I'm making progress. That recognizing my mistakes is the first step. That I'll love again. But she's wrong about that last part. Because how do you love again when you know you had the real thing and torched it for nothing? How do you trust yourself when you've proven you can't tell the difference between treasure and trash? How do you open your heart when you know you're capable of such spectacular self-sabotage? You don't. You just exist. You design fishing boat interiors in Jacksonville. You go to therapy. You delete social media so you don't have to see their wedding photos next spring. You accept that you're the villain in your own story. I started this whole thing saying I needed to tell this story to stop replaying it. But I know now that's not true. I'll replay it forever. Every Sunday when I make my own breakfast. Every time I see a Toyota Camry. Every time someone mentions art fraud. He's living his best life with someone who deserves him. And I'm living with the knowledge that I had everything and threw it away because some bitter women convinced me I deserved more. The moral of the story? When someone loves you, really loves you, that's the upgrade. Everything else is just noise. But I learned that too late. About 8 months and one engagement announcement too late. Edit, to everyone asking why I went back to Miami or to the museum, I ask myself the same thing. I think maybe I needed to hurt. To see exactly what I'd lost. To twist the knife I'd already shoved in my own back. My therapist calls it self-flagellation. I call it making sure I never forget what my stupidity cost me. Edit 2, stop DMing me asking for his contact info. You're exactly the kind of people who destroyed my relationship in the first place. He's engaged. He's happy. Leave him alone. Edit 3, for those saying this is fake, I effing wish. I have the Jacksonville lease, the demotion letter, and the therapy bills to prove it's real. But believe what you want. I know what I lost. Final edit, I'm done updating. He's getting married in 3 months to a woman who sees his worth. I'm designing boat interiors in a city I hate, living with choices I can't undo. There's nothing left to say. I played myself. Story over. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.